Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, we're now at a year. You can listen to us every day for a year. And if you don't lose your mind, that's it. Then you're done. You're
that means we've done
up.
something right. That means you're as much of a gamer as us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the standard. But thank you so much to our patrons. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Ryoku. I was going to stretch it out and fucked it up. But Ryoku, thank you so much for being Dude of the week. And as always, we've got a sponsor to thank. Now, it's the new year. And I feel like there's got to be some new year, new you jokes that we can make about your Balzinis or just like grooming in general. But we're not going to do that because we're mature adults.
Fresh start on your new year, right? Like you want to come in clean, fresh, able to see the world and not through eyes eyes all clouded by pubic hair.
Oh, do we call are there any chicks out there that are like, I love full bush? I just want it just unkept, terrible, terrifying bush.
There's a thing for everyone, but even if you like having a forest, you definitely want to have a forest that's at least well maintained and well groomed.
And there is no better tool to do that than Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0. Favorite of ours. One of our favorite products by them, being the Lawnmower 4.0, works in the shower. That is super convenient. It's wireless. Well, it's not wirelessly charged, but you don't have to plug it into anything.
You better hope it'd be wireless.
Yeah,
can you imagine
using it in the shower and shit? Oh my god! But then, of course, we love the Crop Preserver, which is the ball deodorant. You want to put a little bit in your hands, rub them together, and then rub them on your balls. Have a little you time. And, of course, we love the Boxers 2.0. Now, these are probably our outright favorite thing because I wear probably like 3 pairs a week.
Very comfy and gentle.
Yeah, they're right now it's kind of getting cooler in California, but it's always nice to have something breathable down there. Now, there's other products that we like from them, like the Crop Mops, which is like a travel horse shower.
And they also got a really good thing to cover you with your ears and nose. You got an ears and nose trimmer.
Yeah, love that. God knows that I'm losing hair on the top of my head, so I started sprouting it on the ears and the nose and the ass crack, whatever. Too much information. This is the part of the podcast where we get way too close. But if
weird betrayal of your genetics.
I know. Really got fucked on that one. But Manscaped's here to save me. If you're interested in checking out any of these products, please head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG at checkout for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, at checkout at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
Indeed. Yeah, why is the human body got to be so weird? Like, for some people, it's like, oh, we go bald, but then they grow like a fur coat on their back. It's like,
yeah, it's just the Irish, I think. I don't know. No, you know what? I got Armenian friends that they'll tell you they're hairy as fuck too. They're just better about taking care of it for the most part. Me, I got like a patch on my back. I'm all fucked up.
I don't know.
I'm trying.
Human body's weird. Like sometimes you look at it and you go like, did evolution screw up along the way somewhere?
Clearly, but also one thing that I'm not blessed with is I don't have an abundance of ass hair. Some people out there, they just got real hairy asses, and I feel like that's worse than ear hair. Maybe not. It's covered most of the time. I'm just saying, like, you drop trow and you're already wearing sweats. That's got to be harder to deal with. So I guess a little bit of back
great if you live in Minnesota, though.
Oh my God, probably wonderful in Minnesota or Wisconsin. Not so great for Valentine's Day coming up. If you got to wax all that or you just shave it, I guess. I don't know. Speaking of hard times. our topic for today, we're talking about, are we watching the long, slow, agonizing death of Ubisoft?
Yeah, I mean, this actually started to come out like last week or the week before, whatever. And I kind of like let it simmer a little bit rather than
Okay,
just sort of like
nobody's shocked though.
No, I think here's the crazy thing. So Ubisoft is a company where you probably go, oh yeah, them, because it feels like they haven't really released a product in a long time, like a couple of years, which is also kind of true in a way.
Well, yeah, right. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the
That
last
wasn't
big one.
last year. That was the year before.
That was 2 years ago, right?
Well, year plus at this point.
So what is their this year? Their big thing was going to be Skull and Bones. That's pushed back again.
That didn't happen.
They've got the Assassin's Creed Mirage, which
they have a big Avatar game.
Last Airbender or
no, movie. Frontiers of Pandora.
The Blue Folk. Yeah.
Okay. Like that, and it's a next gen only game. So there's kind of an intrigue there to see like, oh, okay, so what is a next gen? We're not even trying to make it run on last gen. It's next gen only. I would like to see,
and that's pushed back too, right?
Yeah, that got pushed back. That was supposed to be last year, and it got, I don't know when it's coming out now or whatever.
Well, like Skull and Bones, it's coming someday,
I guess. Yeah, and I don't know what Mirage is. It looks like it's just a remake of one almost.
No. If I've got the right thing in mind, Mirage is about one of the main characters in Valhalla. There's a like Middle Eastern character named Basm from like he comes to the UK to hunt down these like cultists. It's not the UK, obviously. He's coming to England, and he makes friends with and teaches you your main character, your like assassin
because techniques. I was like, yeah, because when I see all the key art or whatever on it, it looks like it's back to the Middle East, like it looks like that setting.
Right, yes. I think his name, if I remember correctly, it's Basm. And there's
so it's
like
the 13th Warrior situation, sort of.
Like I don't know if you care, and I'm not sure any of our viewers. There's spoilers if I go too into why he's important and stuff. It's a weird twist and a cool twist.
Well, the point is it's not in Norway again. It's not a sequel to Valhalla.
No, this I think takes place in the Middle East somewhere.
Okay. So, but I guess I think the bigger question will be, and someone knows because an Ubisoft had a almost like an Assassin's Creed Direct some point last year where they announced like 3 fucking Assassin's Creed games.
Right. Yeah.
Is this RPG style? Is this OG style? Because I heard they were going to split it. They were going to make another RPG style Assassin's Creed, and then they were going to make one that's traditional, like classic style Assassin's Creed, and then some other spin-offs. One of them is like Assassin's Creed Jade. It takes place in Japan finally, but I'm like, I don't know. I feel like Sony beat them to the punch on that game.
That one, I think Assassin's Creed Jade is going to be the one that is continuing in the same vein as these last ones. That's more RPG.
Oh, so that's the RPG one.
And Mirage is going to be like the first 2 games.
Right, the return to form style.
Right, yeah, I think. Maybe I have that backwards, but I think that's how it's going to go. Yeah, I think they're really kind of a day late on the going to Japan thing. People have been aching for that since they were in
2008 or something, at least.
Yeah. And Ghost of Tsushima is so good, I almost feel like it's silly for them to try and compete. And granted, it won't be the same story, but like some of the elements are very similar in those games.
Yeah. And then it's funny because
I don't know.
Koei Tecmo with Team Ninja, they're doing their own.
Yes.
Yeah, Rise of the Ronin or Way of the Ronin. I think it's Rise of the Ronin.
If that's one that I'm recalling, that one looks cool as hell.
It does. So yeah. So that one's, it's kind of funny because like that means there's like 3 people right now that are trying to make a open world
stealth action
feudal era Japan game.
Right. Yeah, I don't
I mean, they haven't officially announced a Ghost of Tsushima 2. We know it's
coming. Yeah. It was I mean, it's such a big win, and I genuinely think that's probably one of the number 1 most anticipated sequels coming in the
or at
next
least it will
5,
be when
6
it's
years.
officially announced or whatever. That one you could at least argue because like Rise of the Ronin is like in the 1800s.
Right.
I think that deals with like Matthew Perry and stuff like that. Not that Matthew Perry, like
The Matthew Perry, not the comedian, but the very serious admiral that forced Japan to open under threat.
Right, exactly. So you can't argue like, well, there's like hundreds of years of difference between them. They can have them like, yes, that's true. Totally fair.
Yeah,
totally fair. Because I mean, Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be about the second Mongol invasion. Because yes, there were two, about 7 years apart. So it's like when they made that first game, I'm like, well, they basically like perfectly opened themselves up for part 2. So
that Rise of the Ronin, the one that takes place in the 1800s, is going to be kind of cool because I don't know if when LACMA had that like samurai armor display, did you go to that?
No.
So it had like traditional actual samurai armor as like art pieces and stuff, and it had it throughout the years and how it evolved and stuff.
Yeah.
And towards the 1800s is when they started wearing actual metal chess pieces. One, because they could get the metal, but two, because it had to stop bullets now.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces that they had been struck several times by musket fire while the samurai charged the people down and then won the fight because they shot him in the chest. And it's like, how the fuck? The ball's on you, kid. Like, he's like, fuck it, I got an armor.
Yeah, he had a country defender or whatever. So yeah, I mean, Rise of the Ronin to me is, although I mean, Ronin would definitely be in a thing that it existed for definitely a while before the late 1800s.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's why I can't remember if it's Rise or Way of the Ronin. It's one of the two. But I'm curious on that one because like I played their, I forget what it's called now, but they have a Chinese mythology based Neo game. So there was Dark Souls, and then they made Neo, which was Japanese Souls, and now they're making a Chinese mythology-based Souls, Neo, like copy of a Neo, copy of a Souls, whatever. I played the demo for that. I forget what that's called or whatever. And they're fine, but you know, people will argue that like the combat in Neo does differentiate itself from the Souls combat. Like they're similar games, but like they feel different enough. And I wonder.
The main difference that I remember is that Neo is crisper.
Yeah. And the thing I wonder is that, like, okay, when they're not doing that, when they're going for, okay, we're going after Ghost of Tsushima, how different does it feel? How does the combat feel? Does the gameplay feel? And I don't know. It's one of those weird things where, you know, taking Koei Tecmo Team Ninja as a whole, like, I don't know. They're I feel like it could go either way, I guess is what I'm getting at, where like, I don't know I'm not really sure what quality standard I'm getting out of that. Where Ubisoft, with Assassin's Creed Jade, I'm kind of like, is it, it's weird because like, I feel like people are really divided on the RPG style, you know? I think Valhalla is generally considered the best of the three. Not Valhalla, I'm sorry, Odyssey. I think Odyssey is considered the best of the three because there's Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. And a lot of people felt Valhalla's fine, but it feels like more of the same and a little like it's getting a little burned out on it, or a little too like it's a little too samey maybe.
I think there was Odyssey. Also an inherent funness to Odyssey that just didn't exist in, like, Valhalla was a little bit more dour. I think maybe I liked Valhalla, but I also liked that setting, both time period and, you know, give me the foggy, rainy, love that shit. Rain and fog, love it.
No.
You know, people are always like, oh, I'd be so depressed living in Seattle or London, and I'm like, I would not. Give me that. I like it. But also Odyssey, you know, you're fucking roaming around Greece, ancient Greece, like it's beautiful, a vibrant, beautiful, you know, time. And everybody has a favorite Greek mythology that you're gonna be somewhere involved in, you know, if you're real broy, you love the fucking Spartans. I love the fucking Spartans. There's some Athenian legends that you're probably really into, and oh my god, you get to be there for the Peloponnesian War. Great. So I think that's hard to beat, especially when people don't really people know who the Vikings are, but Viking history isn't quite as, I don't know, ingrained as Greek mythology and history is.
I'd say maybe not as well documented.
Right. It is just now becoming part of the mainstream culture, like any of the Greek mythology and stuff is. So I don't know.
It kind of reminds me, I saw something today on Twitter. It was from some game developer, and he showed concept art for a game that he had concept dreamed up, but he knew he would never get published. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put it on social media and it was like the whole game was like a 2D Metroidvania done in Greek pottery art style.
That's cool.
Right? So but the reason it was never going to get made was because the guy clearly this guy clearly had a fetish, because you were running around as a big beefy chick that let's just say very Greek.
Totally nude?
Not totally, but definitely naked. Naked enough, so it's naked enough to the point where the ESRB would be like, no way.
Not happening. I can't tell in this blocky format if those are nipples or eyeballs.
Right.
But somebody could jerk off to it.
Yeah. Right. So very Greek Olympian style.
Right.
And it was kind of one of those weird things where it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's a weird thing to kind of consider, where it's like, oh, you want to go embrace the full Greek thing. I'm like, well, the ESRB may have other words about that.
That's fair. I don't think that's it might not also, it just wouldn't sell well.
I think people might be a little off put, just kind of run around is and I don't know if the plan was to have choose your character, but if you were a dude, would you just be running around with slappy schlong just
Conan Exiles. Yeah, Conan Exiles, that's what's up. Just a big old dick leaving.
Could you imagine if someone was just kind of trying to make a video game of the first Olympic Games?
Yes, let's do it. FIFA, call me. We'll get that going.
Use the Frostbite engine from FIFA.
Just floppy ass, just oiled up dongs everywhere. Oof. But going back to Ubisoft, I can't remember the last time I was amped about an Ubisoft title. I got Valhalla and I liked Valhalla, but I got that on a whim. It was on sale and I grabbed it. But I also did that for Odyssey, and I have no regrets about Odyssey. Odyssey was great.
Yeah.
I don't actually, to be honest with you, I don't really have any regrets about Valhalla either. That was really good.
Yeah, and the strongest criticism I heard was just kind of it's good, but it's more of the same. And I don't have time to go through a game of this size and density, after putting, and then that's personal per person.
Yeah, I don't really like it when people use that as a main criticism, by the way, where somebody will be like, oh, and the game's too long. Okay. I guess, yes.
I have, there's definitely been games where it's you definitely went past the point in the story where you really should have just ended it right there. This is dragged out now.
Well, yeah. Yes, that is true, but I think that it's not necessarily a fair criticism in turn. It's too subjective, right? There's people that think that God of War Ragnarok was perfect length and loved every second of it and wish it was longer. There's other people who are like, oh, it should have been half as long.
I feel like it definitely could have been trimmed, or at least Critical Path could have been shorter than there were segments that I feel could have been put into side questing or whatever.
Sure, and I think that.
But I don't really think it affects the quality of that game very much either, though. Is the game worse for it? Not really.
No,
not really.
You just might have gotten a little bit tired of it. I think one of the reasons why God of War had that problem was that the gameplay loop was pretty basic. It was exactly the same as
I think its biggest problem too is that it is a follow up to God of War 2018, and it is extremely similar. Like
right,
you're doing a lot, and to be honest, this will be a problem Ghost of Tsushima 2 will have.
right.
Is that okay? Do you make the game bigger? Do you make it longer than the first Ghost of Tsushima?
Are you playing as the same guy? Are you doing the same?
Going through the same shit, and it's like we've already spent a whole game, repelling the Mongol invasion on Tsushima.
Right.
So it's like I don't expect the next game to actually take place entirely on Tsushima. I actually expect you to go to the main island of Japan for a little bit, because they did get to there. So I expect there's actually going to be. They already did Iki Island, which I was like, okay, well, they already took that for the DLC for one, but yeah, I expect there'll be a little bit on the main island a bit. But what can you do at this point? Because like it or not, we have a whole game of you covering that whole island and fighting to repel the Mongol invasion.
Right.
And it puts you in a tough position because
who are you going to play as? Like, it can't be the same main character again. It can't, like, I don't.
Oh, I fully expect Jin Sakai will be playable in part 2.
You think so? You think he'll be the main character and not just like...
He'll either be the main character or it'll be split. I don't think... It'd be kind of cool and ballsy if
he's a mentor character.
Yeah, what if Sucker Punch does just go with a completely different protagonist? That might be actually kind of ballsy.
I think that's the move. I think they go with a different protagonist, and Jin Sakai is a character in the game, but not like playable. Because where the fuck do you go? Where does Jin go from there?
Yeah,
you end pretty strong for Jin.
One thing I think would actually be fun was if it is a new protagonist entirely, and Jin Sakai is DLC.
Right.
Like, okay, well, where was Jin during this part of the invasion? Find out, the year later in the DLC, play Jin's side of the story, and have like unique areas that only Jin went to.
That'd be pretty solid. I could dig that.
I'd actually be down with that, because you're right. When like narratively, character wise, that also speaks to problems of like, where does he go? What do you can't, of course, you can extend his story and you can have things, and depending on how you dealt with the uncle at the end of the game. Which, spoilers, I let him live just because I knew it would be more painful for him. I remember literally saying this. I'm like, no, you dying, that's quick and easy. You need to live with your decision and live with your failure.
Right. I mean, literally right up till now, I had forgotten that part of the end of the game. And now I'm remembering. I killed that motherfucker. Right.
See, that just shows you how like you're twisted in one way and I'm twisted in the other. Where I literally said, no, I want you to live, and I want you to remember, and I want you to know that you would, like, you have to live with your regret and failure.
Look, I don't like leaving shit half done. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, spoilers for anybody who hasn't played that game yet, but I guess that's your fault. You should have got on that. I'm trying to think of, because before we started recording this, you posited a question that is like sort of difficult to answer. What would it take for Ubisoft to win you back as a fan, or like to get your money in general?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, I know my wife loves Assassin's Creed. I really like like the RPG version of Assassin's Creed drew me back in. I'm the opposite, where like I was not craving more of the same. I wanted the RPG version, and it being Greece drew me back in. So I will probably buy the next Assassin's Creed game, probably. That being said, I feel like the same game that could have drawn me in 10 years ago is the game that would draw me in now, which is Beyond Good and Evil 2, and it's never coming. It's never happening.
Well, here's the thing that leads into another thing, because like, are we talking about the Beyond Good and Evil 2 that we've said we're getting, or are we talking about like an actual Beyond Good and Evil 2 that apparently they're not making? Because here's the thing: I think a lot of Ubisoft's troubles are due to what I said in the past, and that is they went so fucking all in on games as a service.
Well,
Made it such a huge part of their mission structure a couple years ago that's biting them in the ass. And I couldn't be happier to actually see this, because the idea of taking even shit like Assassin's Creed and wanting to turn that into an annualized season pass style game, even though it's mostly a single player endeavor, to me that was just scummy, shilly, dirty, gross, and just I think just of no benefit to the player, because we're going to make you we have to make you committed. And it's like, people in their lives, general human beings, have time in their life for one fucking live service game.
Right.
Okay, like some people will bounce around a bunch of them, but people generally have time in their daily life for like maybe one, ever-changing live service game. And Ubisoft wanting to do that to not only all its multiplayer offerings, but all its single-player games too, to me was just such a fucking terrible idea, and I'm glad it's biting them in the ass. Also, they kind of deserve it, from a moral standpoint of that company too. But like, just the general idea that it's like we just want to constantly put people in this constant like feedback loop of like, adding stuff, games never finished, games never done, add more stuff, come back, play more, like, give us more money. Not just play more, but give us more money. We're not being benevolent. It's not like, hey, we're just going to keep adding campaigns and stuff for free to all these games you love. Your game will never end. It's wonderful. No, it's like, give us more money. Now give us more money. Now give us more money. Now give us more money. And it's like, they let the success of Siege go to their head, where they wanted to basically turn everything into the Siege. So they did it with Watch Dogs. They did it with The Division. They did it with.
I forgot that Siege is a Ubisoft game. I played the shit out of Siege and I liked it. But
remember, there was a weird like zombie version of Rainbow Six as well.
Yeah, which did that ever actually come out?
Yeah, it came out and bombed.
Oof.
All this shit, they were so fucking focused on gas that they burned through all of it. they lit their gas field on fire.
Well, part of me mourns that Ubisoft is having such a hard time right now, because there really aren't any truly third-party companies left other than Ubisoft, EA, and Activision are the three big ones. And Activision's on its way to being bought.
It'll stay third-party if Sony has its way.
Yeah, but Activision either dies or gets bought. They're hitting all sorts of problems as it is. Ubisoft seems like I don't think Ubisoft will die. I think it'll get bought. And
that's what a lot of people were saying, that like this almost looked like, is Ubisoft just kind of hoping to get bought at this point? And here's an interesting
all
counter.
These scandals do seem like it's a for sale sign.
Here's what I've actually heard, that Ubisoft would not be an easy sell. And the reason is because they have about 10 plus studios around the world. They have a shit ton of employees, and they have offices all over the world, which makes it difficult for someone to come in and buy, because they're not buying, hey, here's this big company in France. Here's this big company, like Bethesda, which was like almost all in Baltimore and Maryland. And then like, some places, we have someone in Texas, and they did that one studio in Tokyo. But it's like Ubisoft has offices everywhere, all over the world. So then you have to buy them. And then the way Ubisoft's whole ship is run is that people from everywhere, Singapore, India, Malaysia, you just, I think that's what it's. Anyways, point is that like you'd be, Shanghai as well. Like, you're talking about people everywhere, all over the planet. They're what make the games Ubisoft produces. So it's like, are you buying Ubisoft because you want Ubisoft games to keep getting made exclusively for you, in which case you now have taken ownership of a global corporation with offices everywhere in all the different tax laws that go on in all the different countries, right? Or are you just buying Ubisoft for the IPs, and then you're going to just fire and lay off everyone, like thousands of employees?
Right, which is possible. But then, is there any particular IP that is worth buying Ubisoft for?
And there you go. Besides Assassin's Creed, I think Assassin's Creed obviously makes its case. Rainbow Six makes its case.
Right. Bringing back Prince of Persia could be a move.
Yeah, and that's a weird one because it was going to be the big debut of Ubisoft in India, and people really didn't like the debut where the characters look off, and so they internally they delayed it, and I feel that could have been fixed or whatever. But then India got hit with that really bad COVID, COVID problem where like lots and lots they got hit really hard, really bad, and then eventually the whole project just got scrapped and rebooted in Montreal. So they lost the project, over time, which kind of to me kind of sucks because it's like, okay, yes, like the character models and the faces of the three leads in that game looked a little weird and off, but that once they delayed it, I feel like that could have been worked on, that could have been fixed. That was,
unless there was something behind the scenes where they're like, "Ooh, this cannot be fixed."
Obviously, something more is going on, and there's been rumblings that like it was in like the project was like really having trouble coming together, and blah blah blah. Mid management problems, yada yada yada. Where was same story everywhere, right?
The mid management bubble is bursting right now, so at least that's gonna be a thing. All the middle managers getting just laid the fuck off.
The thing is like, but my favorite era of Ubisoft is an era to Ubisoft that wasn't even necessarily that profitable for them, which is I want to say 2004, 3 or 4.
2003 was one of the big years that people said contends with 98 in comments and on Twitter and stuff. Yeah, 2003.
Is that when because Guitar Hero and Sands of Time? Because the year Sands of Time and Beyond Good and Evil 1 and 13, I guess in your case, like,
yes, 13.
Like, to me, that is the best era for Ubisoft. It's the best year for me ever. Like Rayman 3, I think, was somewhere in there too. I didn't even play that game, but 2 was really good. So
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
There you go.
Warcraft 3, Silent Hill 3, Max Payne 2. Yeah, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, Devil May Cry 2, Mario Kart Double Dash.
Devil May Cry 2 is not to be spoken of in any sort of high regard.
Fair.
Is this 3 or 4?
This is 03.
03, okay. So yeah, 03 to me was like when Ubisoft was at its peak, but Ubisoft wasn't making all the money it needed to in 2003, right? Like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time did really well for them, but Beyond Good and Evil kind of flopped.
Yeah, did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the game, sell really well for them? Is that what you're trying to say? You're trying to say that game did really Lock On Modern Air Combat didn't fucking kill it in 2003? Is that what you're saying?
Ubisoft used to make a lot, well, at least publish a lot of shovelware.
Oh, they did Harvest Moon Friends of Mine, which I actually know a couple. I think I know 2 people who liked that game.
It's probably European publishing.
Yeah.
In America, it was not to me.
I loved 13. We know that. Played the shit out of 13.
David Duchovny, not Final Fantasy.
Right. Yeah. Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, I really loved. Beyond Good and Evil. Actually, yeah. Those are 3 of my favorite games from that year, and they're all from Ubisoft. So that really was kind of their best year in my book. I wonder, because 04, I can't think of too many memorable. That's not true. Far Cry was 04. For some reason, I was thinking that was 05.
Warrior Within.
Dukes of Hazzard. Shit. Love it.
Stand alone. God.
I forgot that
Ghost Recon
2
so
came out.
Much.
Well, people really shat on it because it was so emo, but the gameplay wise, I don't think I remember a lot of people hating on it.
No, it was good. I beat it. That was one of the only times I pre-ordered an Ubisoft game was because I loved Sands of Time so much. I was like, I'll pre-order Warrior Within. Hell yeah, let's go.
And now I'm just looking at like 2003, 2004, 2005.
Two Thrones and all that.
Two Thrones, Brothers in Arms, Road to Hill 30 I played, but I can't remember much at all about it.
Brothers in Arms is interesting because I think Gearbox made Brothers in Arms. And You remember the canceled Brothers in Arms 360 game where they were going like hyper cartoony?
I don't remember that at all. No.
Yeah, it showed up once at E3 in a trailer form and never again. But yeah, there was going to be a hyper cartoony version of Brothers in Arms for the 360, and it never went and never got off the ground because Gearbox was having some problems during the 360 era.
For some reason, this list is saying that Resident Evil 4 was released by Ubisoft in 2005. So maybe this list isn't on PC. It was. Shit.
They published the PC versions of Devil May Cry 3 and Resident Evil 4.
Huh.
Let me clear up that confusion for you right now.
I was about to say maybe this list is bullshit. Far Cry Instincts came out. That's my favorite Far Cry.
It's funny too. And Far Cry 6 kind of completely fizzled out. I think that was that last year or the year before.
Far Cry 6, I know they had a really hard time with. I think people were burnt out on.
Yeah, it's weird in a way because like you had that one actor that everyone really likes, and he got memed across the internet for his character render in Far Cry 6. But like, what happened to Far Cry? I don't know because I don't play Far Cry, but my only guess is that Far Cry got too cinematic.
Well,
and less sort of because like generally, and you correct me, Andrew, because I might be way off base here. Early Far Cry is closer in tone and style closer to a Just Cause kind of game, but in first person, kind of. And it's a little more free form, right? Right. And there's still free form and there's still open world, but like they started to become more and more cinematic starting with 3. Vadi was like the big villain, and they always felt like they had to one up every Far Cry with some crazy charismatic villain. But like, maybe it's gotten a little too far into its story narrative driven aspect versus just being like sort of like a free form. I don't know. I might be completely fucking off base with this, but I just remember how there's a million versions of Far Cry 1 in the tropics, then Far Cry 2's in Africa, Savannah, and then 3 goes back to the tropics, does really well. 4 is in the Himalayas. 5 is in Trump's America. I mean, Montana. I mean, whatever. Yeah. And then 6 is Cuba.
So I think what really changed there is, yes, it did go more cinematic, but every game after 3 follows basically the exact same formula where the villain is the most memorable thing about the game because like you got the crazy villain, but nobody that I can think of ever remembers anything about the gameplay.
Do you think maybe it's what we were talking about earlier a little bit with sequels? Like maybe Far Cry just kind of burned itself out by not necessarily being bad, but just the surprise is gone.
Right. Yeah. Like, nothing about it is shocking or.
Yeah. Like every Far Cry is going to have some crazy charismatic villain who's going to capture you or confront you at the beginning. And then like some instigating event will go off. And then you're basically the whole rest of the game is you trying to take down this big villain in this exotic locale.
Right. And that's really cool the first time. It's really cool the second time. But by the third time, you're running out. Like when you're choosing to do the same markers for charisma for the villain, the villains just all run together, right?
Yeah.
I played 3 and 4, and I think 4 is the one where the guy goes like, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, that's crazy. That guy.
Well, that's 3. Yeah.
Is that 3? That's 3.
Yeah.
And that guy is really memorable. But then as you go on, I can't remember like the one that was clearly trying to make fun of like the West Baptist or whatever, those guys like
5.
Yeah, I can't remember any key lines from that guy.
Right, yeah. I can't say I remember any lines from any of them. I just remember 4 had the thing where guy tells you to wait for 15 minutes in the tent and he'll be right back. And if the game is prompting you gotta like shit goes down, you gotta run, right? But if you actually wait in the tent for 15 minutes, full real-time world minutes, the guy will come back and you actually get like a unique ending.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty great. I think we can say one thing about the downfall of Ubisoft. In 2005, it looks like Ubisoft had like 36 games come out, and half those games are relatively memorable. You know, you got Sniper Elite, Call of Juarez, Resident Evil 4 on the PC, that kind of shit. In 2022, they had 7 games.
Surprised there was even 7. I felt like there was like 2, maybe.
Well, one of them was Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok edition.
So DLC.
Right. So they had, and 2 of these games, I can't for the life of me remember, Roller Champions and Anno 1800 Complete Edition. I don't know what that is, but like they had a Just Dance 2023 edition come out in 2022.
Right.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction came out, and like you said, that flopped. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which was the Mario plus Rabbids games are supposed to be great.
Yeah.
But that's the only game that it sounds like did well. They had Arena
Not
Survivors
them,
Battle
though.
Royale.
Which one?
Well, Arena Survivors Battle Royale. Not a word. Have no idea what the fuck
I know about the rollerball game. Max has played that, and I know there was that.
Oh, that was a mobile game. A Wild Arena.
Oh, okay.
Survivors.
Did Riders Republic come out last year?
Not that's on this.
Must have been the year before then. Shit.
Yeah. Every game that's coming out in 2023, they've got like Oddballers and the Settlers, New Allies, Trackmania, Valiant Hearts, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Oh, there's like a Division. There's another Division coming out. When did the Division 2 come out? 2 years ago?
I heard there was a Division in a different part of America. That was Division Rural or something.
Heartland. Yeah, it's
Heartland.
Division Heartland.
Yeah, that's like one of the projects coming.
Right. So they've got another like 7 games. Now, granted, part of this might just be that like Ubisoft had a hard time scaling up to modern AAA gaming. Like they may have just in 2005, they're releasing 36 fucking games. But that's still standard def generation. Like I get the fact that no one's releasing that many games anymore, period. But I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, the technology like got too big and complex for them. I think from them, maybe.
I think they were jumping way too far because like, okay, let's go down that list of games that are not DLC and not Anno, because Anno is like an art, I think some sort of strategy game, but you said complete edition, which to me means it's just like a re-release of something else. Because Anno games have been around forever.
You got Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hopes.
Okay. Which there's nothing really to say there, other than
it's a turn-based strategy game.
It's cool.
Fun. Yeah.
That's the kind of game I actually wish they were seeing more, but they called it a huge disappointment and a surprise. So you got that.
Roller Champions.
There's a live service game.
Free-to-play sports video game.
Yeah, free-to-play sports live service fuckery. You said Rainbow Six Extraction.
Right. Yeah.
Also a live service fuckery.
Right.
What else is there?
Just Dance 2023.
Just Dance 2023, which that's just annualized. I mean, it's not a live service game because they're just going to make another whole game the next year.
Right. But it is basically just a live services game. It just comes out yearly. Arena Survivors Battle Royale, which is a mobile game.
Which just listen to the name. It's
live services.
It's a live service thing.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok,
which edition. Is just a piece of a live service game, right?
Well, it looks like it's its own release. I don't know,
right? But it is part of that whole drive and narrative of we are adding content to this Assassin's Creed game, chunk after chunk after chunk, right? Like
right.
It's part of the whole. I wonder if it's playable standalone.
I think it is.
That'd actually be pretty nice if it was.
Yeah. And then you have Anno 1800 Complete Edition, Year 4.
Year 4. Wow, interesting.
I don't know what the fuck that means. I'm gonna find out what Anno.
I believe it's a strategy PC series.
Yeah, it's a strategy video game.
Yeah.
Huh. It looks a lot like ship strategy, like fucking Skull and Bones will be someday. Someday.
Will be someday. But yeah, to me, I think a lot of this just comes from the fact that like when you design a game to have this roadmap, when you put a roadmap on your video game, you're basically saying development's going to go on X amount of years past the finish line.
Right.
So that's a costly endeavor. And it's kind of a risk that they did it, but it was a stupid risk, and a risk I think anybody, with any sort of like, market savvy or industry savvy would have told them it's probably not a good idea to do this, to make development on this many titles all with a fucking roadmap beyond their retail release. Like Bungie never wanted to do Destiny 2. They were bullied into it by Activision because Activision sucks, and everything they touch. But since being free of the shackles and then being bought by Sony, what has Bungie done? Just make more content for Destiny 2. Their life has been Destiny 2 for as long as Destiny 2's been around. They're not trying to make anything more or whatever. I mean, they're probably like thinking about, another game, but like everyone wants to be the next Destiny, but it's like, look at what Destiny did, which was it took a large, prominent, talented, well-known video game developer in Bungie, and they devoted everything to it.
Right.
They stuck with it. And 2 was only pushed upon them 2 years after the fact because Activision. And then all they wanted to do after that is just focus on that one product. And because it was early, it's also
Bungie's interesting because Bungie always seems like they're constantly bullied to do more of the thing that they just made a big hit out of.
Yeah.
Like they always seem like they want to move on. Like they're all like, yeah, great. Halo was awesome. Let's move on. And then they get bullied into making 2 and 3. And then they're like, fuck you guys, we're done. And, they move on. And then they make Destiny. And it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. They're like, yeah, that's great. We're going to move on. And everybody's like, no. Keep printing money. Keep the money printer going.
Well, the thing, at least with Bungie, was that like it felt like they wanted to just keep Destiny going for a while. Like just go from Destiny 1 to 2, like not make a whole new game. We'll just keep working on this because they were pioneering live service shit.
Right, but I don't know a lot of Destiny people that are upset about Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny people seem fine with it. Anytime I ask about it, they're like, yeah, it's cool. It's still going. Yeah, that's great. There you go. Why are you making why is Ubisoft trying to release like 5 fucking brand new live service games a year? Like to me, Rainbow Six Siege is your evergreen game. You just keep doing that, Ubisoft. Everything else, just let it be its own standalone. But they're going to look at Mario and Rabbids and say, like, even with the Mario IP, we can't sell what we want to.
Well, it's sort of like this. If you can keep releasing new maps and new characters, for Rainbow Six Siege, and it keeps making money, great.
Yeah.
The problem that I foresee for them is, how many executives do you know actually play games or know anything about the culture of games?
Wada died a long time ago.
Well, that's so. How many? Like, why are they doing 5? Because an executive heard that the term live services, saw that it prints a lot of money when it's successful. Was like, okay, well, if we want to be successful, we'll make 5 of the motherfuckers instead of just one. We don't want, it's the idea of like, oh, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, that's really, really smart, generally speaking. But like, if you're going to do something, try and do it as best as you can. Don't try to do 5 of them. You know what I mean? Focus.
Yeah.
I think that it's a thing where it's like an executive who's never touched a game, who's never played a game, who's never watched a game getting played, called up the dev teams and we're like, all right, you're going to make live services games, whether you want to, ever thought about it or not. One of the things that I sort of love about Phil Spencer is one, he seems like a pothead who sort of got an insane job. Like he doesn't seem like
right.
Like he doesn't seem like the guy who's like a sociopath who climbed the ladder by like cutting throats and shit. Like he seems just like a chill dude who somehow ended up there. Not saying he didn't work hard, just that he doesn't have that air about him.
Yeah.
But I also believe that he plays games.
Yeah, I think Phil
Like,
does.
I think
Phil
he plays
definitely.
games. And so I think part of the reason why there's that weird growth period that's happening for Xbox is like he's going out and getting companies that make games he likes. If that makes sense. Like he's now trying to push the company in that direction of making games rather than services.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is that like when Microsoft bought Obsidian, Microsoft had no intention of making Obsidian make Destiny. They bought Obsidian and they're like, cool, let's make some RPGs because that's what they do. And then they made that weird game Pentiment, based that looks like a medieval drawing, old medieval art, and they just fucking let them do it. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. They bought Ninja Theory and they're like, cool. See you when Hellblade 2 is done.
Right. Well, that's something that I think is like we look at this awkward transition where it's like Microsoft had, and we're going to be talking about this in the side quest this week, but had one game that they published in the top 10, of last year, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I feel bad that it's not paying dividends so much for Microsoft yet. Yeah.
But I do think once those games start releasing from these companies that basically got bought and told to do the thing they do best rather than try to push them into a bottle, which is what it seems like Ubisoft tried to do. Ubisoft tried to jump on the live services bandwagon and they tried to go whole ass. They didn't try to half-ass it, but their whole ass of it was, we're not going to make one really fucking good one and focus all of our attention on it. No, we're going to make everything we do now is going to be this money printing machine because it worked once for some other guy.
And I think people smell that. I think even the casual consumer can kind of sniff that out and go like, why does every game, at least not now, but why did every Ubisoft game have 30 different deluxe editions?
Right.
With all this different content. Why I was buying an Ubisoft, if I wanted to buy a complete version of an Ubisoft game, I had to spend $100 every time, for the big bundles. And then why is it, why is everything so hyper focused on this? And then after a time, it's like you realize I don't actually, my group of friends is not all playing the same games anymore, or I can't get any of them to jump on the Division 2. So it's like
the Division 2, just their complete edition, which was $100 when it first came out, is now like $24 on Steam. And I know a couple people who bought it and they were like, oh, I want to get it. And I had gotten the Division 2, I think it was on sale, but it was for like $30 on PS4, and I was like, I'm not buying it again on Steam. I have no fucking desire to. I barely played it when I bought it the first time. I'm not going to buy it plus all the bullshit you got to buy. And that's how I found out it's $24 for everything now. So if you've always wanted to play the Division 2, now's the time to grab the complete edition for $20. An 80% discount.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the full quote because I want the full quote.
I think one thing that you can draw a correlation to is Ubisoft is in a position that EA was in, or is kind of 5 years deeper into. EA has sort of dug their grave where now they have two games, which granted EA's two games are still in the top 10 selling games again for last year, FIFA and Madden. But that's the only thing EA does now. They don't have
because it just prints money.
Right. They haven't done anything else. Which, if Ubisoft had something that printed money like that, I guess they'd be fine, but they don't. So you're getting to see them die this really agonizing death. And, once you find this, what you're looking for, we have 10 minutes left in the episode.
No,
we should talk about
I have it.
Who buys it?
Because the thing is we're talking about all of this, and then that guy, Yves Guillemot is his name.
Right.
Mr. CEO of Ubisoft, who, I had no idea my best friend that I would spend all my, company club parties on yachts with was totally a sex pest. I had no idea. Sure you didn't, buddy.
Yeah.
he put out an email to all the Ubisoft employees and said, "Today more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success."
Yeah, basically making it their fault things went wrong, not his.
I am also asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible. And he ended it with, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving," which to me immediately is like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even work for this guy, but like, really, fuck you. Oh, it's your fault games are not coming out. I'm like, oh my God. Jeez.
Yeah.
A man who's never he's never coded a thing in his life, which this is prompting an employee strike at the end of the month, I guess, for a day.
Yeah, because they want a 10% pay increase, and
well, I mean, he's sitting there like, there's so many in that quote, those quotes I just read. There's so many veiled fucking threats there.
Yeah, so the Paris offices are calling for a strike. I mean, say what you want about the French, but they take no shit. Like, all you have to do is read about the rights of man and realize, like, their Bill of Rights is a hell of a lot stronger.
There was a thing a long time ago, one of those personality quizzes I took, and they're like, "What war would you thrive the most in?"
And did it say the French Revolution for you?
Yeah, I got French Revolution. They're
Jesus
like, "Yeah,
Christ, that was brutal."
You're like, your ideologies and stances would fit best in the French Revolution.
Jesus Christ. I don't know if that's a compliment though. Like, that was a fucked up revolution.
I mean, it was, but I mean, like, let's face it, the government in power kind of deserved it too. So
right. Look, I'm not saying that the guillotine isn't a very effective weapon. I'm just saying, like, it was pretty fucked up. Like,
I still remember though, like, do you remember when we got fucking COD Modern Warfare 2, not the new one, the old one, early?
Yeah.
And we were playing online with a couple other people who got it early. There was like a very small handful of people who got, broken Street Date copies. And we were losing this one match to this team, and they were all French players. And this one guy, I don't even know who it was just trying, he was getting pissed, and he rallied everyone. He's like, "Come on, man." He's like, "That's it. We're not fucking losing, this round to a bunch of surrender monkeys. Let's go."
Wow.
I was just laughing my ass off because it makes a World War II joke.
We'll end it on a history note, because you can look through history. The French army has the best the French military has the best military record of any current nations, historically speaking. Like,
also to be fair, they were probably the most difficult country for Germany to deal with that they occupied. Because, because the French underground and the French, they probably gave them way, like, I mean, I'm not saying people didn't fight back, but I'm just saying that, like, the amount of shit given to them by occupying France was way worse than Austria and Poland.
The French just don't fuck around. We've got a terrible rivalry with them, so we call them, we make fun of them for surrendering in World War II, but they, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of any of their revolutions, I guess.
Look, if you really want to get technical here, and I don't know what you're going to say this, I'm like, it's kind of our fault that they even had to surrender.
No,
like, in a way. Like, if we had gotten involved a lot quicker and a lot sooner, which also kind of goes for England as well. Thank you, Neville Chamberlain. He promised me. He said it really nice.
Neville Chamberlain fought in World War I and made a vow that he would never lead the country into a war. People remember him as a coward, but he was actually a pretty badass dude.
Well, he
kept to his principles.
He's also wrong as hell.
He was wrong as hell. I'm not saying he wasn't wrong. But one of his staunchest defenders was Winston Churchill. And for good reason.
Yeah, that is also true. But I mean, it's just one of those things where it's kind of like, well, there is part of me that's always kind of like, how do we intervened on this a lot quicker, we may not have had to do what we had to do.
No,
just saying.
That's fair. But
I mean, FDR campaigned on keeping us out of war.
Right.
Those were his campaign slogans before we got involved.
Which is why he never, ever sold arms to the UK. He sold them to Canada. And Canada sold them to the UK.
It's just business.
I can't help it. But on that note, any closing thoughts on the agonizingly slow death of Ubisoft?
We
did the thing.
One thing I would take away is never cross Steph Sterling on this, because it seems like every time they bring up or make a segment about a company being shit, they usually do go to shit real quick. Happened with Konami, and now it's happening to Ubisoft. So there's
Steph
that.
Sterling rarely wrong.
Yeah, like and
they're
here's
on
the other
point.
Thing.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. I think your past will catch up with you. It's kind of like my dad told me one time when we were talking on like a long road trip about, because I had like a sort of like a higher up in one of my old jobs, and they were really two-faced. What they tell me versus what would happen. And my dad said that always catches up to those people above you, because this person got fired, like in a very no questions asked. Like one day, like we were told in private, like this person no longer works for, when it works here, you are not, that is all you are getting. You are not allowed to ask anything else about it. like this very like strict, like I'm like, what, okay, like what happened there? Like either someone got crossed or they really got caught doing something nasty. Anyways, and it kind of always occurred to me. I was like, yeah, like scummy people climb the ladder and get high rank or whatever. However, people who generally only ever kind of like all they have is their lies, fake it till you make it.
Right.
Past generally kind of catches up with them.
The hope is that you'll make enough money by the time it catches up to you that you can walk away.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, I won't necessarily name some names, but let's say there's been other prominent people in the game industry whose lies eventually caught up to them. And I think I'm thinking of a couple here. I'm sure anyone listening can probably guess, but yeah, like, and people just, I think and that just goes in general, even for just being just a general asshole, eventually that'll catch up with you.
Right.
Naka might be going to jail for a while, Yuji Naka. So,
we'll see.
So, I mean, like, eventually your shit catches up with you, where, and I think that's happening with Ubisoft a little bit, where,
their poor decisions and poor planning and poor
decisions, poor management, terrible human resources. There's karma here. There's also just bad business here. There's a kind of just, it's kind of like this nasty storm of poor decisions, both on a moralistic and business standpoint. And it's just finally catching up to them. And that's the thing is like, you can be successful, with your business decisions and still be pieces of shit, i.e. Activision, and you can, and sometimes that doesn't even work. You could be pieces of shit or you can be like really nice people, but really bad business decision makers. And then, there's a graveyard of, dead indie startups,
right.
Probably you could make a case there. Because they just made poor decisions, made, wrong time, released the wrong game, wrong time or whatever. Right. But like I think with Ubisoft here, where it's kind of like everything's kind of just falling apart because they've not been a pleasant company to work for. They're not making the smartest decisions. They're kind of doing things that really piss people off. Cause that's the other thing too, is that like, you could be a really shitty company like Square Enix. I'm just going after everyone today. But here's the thing.
Making a lot of enemies today.
Here's the thing. You could be a really shitty company like Square Enix run by a really shitty person, but they make games people like. People really like Final Fantasy 16, right? They like Kingdom Hearts. They like Nier. I like Nier. So they can kind of get away with it because, at the end of the day is they're still making the games people like and want to play. Final Fantasy 16 is not a game that is every item you buy is an NFT, right? Like maybe if the CEO had his way, he would do that, right? But it's not.
They were going to try, probably. They were probably going to try.
They might have, but yeah, like they're okay. So it's like, okay, they're a shitty company, but they make games people like. Ubisoft is kind of that company where it's like, no, everything had to have microtransactions in it. Everything had to have the digital deluxe edition. Everything had to have like, the special cool starter pack, $100 at launch kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Every game was going through this shit. They just made all these batches that people don't like. Right. I think a lot of people caught on to it. And it's catching them in the butt now. So I'm not sorry or sad for this happening. I just don't know if they're going to learn the right lesson here. I think that's the real tragedy,
right,
in all of this is like, because like,
well, clearly he hasn't. He's blaming his developers as though they're the ones making the decisions.
Right? Yeah, because and therein lies the real kind of issue there, where it kind of just seems like you're not really getting it. Because like, I really want a Prince of Persia remake to come out and be really good, and just be a Prince of Persia remake, a Sands of Time remake. That's it. I just Sands of Time. I don't want any microtransactions. I don't want any digital deluxe editions. I don't want any of that bullshit. Just make a game, sell me the game, walk away.
I want a Far Cry Instincts remake. That'd be really good with a Predator mode and a Battle Royale, which would be really great. Especially because it has the fucking map builder and shit, map editor.
Right, like that in a way was its own DLC. I mean, the thing is, it's not monetizable. Although Bethesda found a way to do that with Morrowind or Skyrim and shit like that.
No, I mean, like the map editor, you could have all the base stuff and then just keep releasing map update packs to like add new stuff to the maps. I don't know if you ever used the map editor in Far Cry Instincts.
But what I could see them doing is literally taking the most popular maps, like 5 of them, right? And then they sell it for $5 or $10 even, right? And then a chunk of that goes to the map editor, the creators of the maps, right? And then the other chunk goes to Ubisoft. And then that signal boosts the maps so people play on them more or whatever. And it's like, because like that's one problem with like user created content. There's always great stuff, and then there's just a ton of garbage, right? Right. And it's like it becomes really hard to sift through sometimes. And you can do like, oh, the top rated, the top voted, but what if it was like curated? Like literally had people from Ubisoft go in, look at what the top rated ones, take the ones that they felt were the design the best, put them in a bundle, sell that bundle like for a cheap cost, gives back a little bit to the map.
Right, because they're not making it, so they don't have to. Yeah, no, that'd be interesting.
And that would be the only thing. I would not have a season pass, for Far Cry, like say Far Cry Instincts remake. I'm not going to have a season pass. I'm not going to have content that is gated only to the $100 digital deluxe, pack, or the one that comes with a map, or like a real tiger's paw or some bullshit. Or whatever.
A real tiger's paw.
Weird tchotchke thing they throw in there, because everything has to have some weird fucking statue, right?
Yeah. Look, hey, we know people that are suckers for a good statue, okay?
I would never buy a statue of any.
Yeah.
As I look at my castle and the sky robots.
On that note, we do have some patrons to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Ryoku. Thank you, Ryoku. And of course, hit up the Patreon to check out the side quests we've been releasing. I think we've got like 27 or 28 up there now. They're basically like 10 to 15. Some of them are 30-minute long episodes, just of topics that we didn't use for full podcasts. And our producers for this episode are Scrunami, Croy35, Hyper Viper 89, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.